So guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got quite a bit to go over in today's video. We've got a bit of managerial news going on around who's going to be the next Birmingham manager, a little bit of speculation around that. We've got some transfer rumours which have been going around the league recently. As we all know, we've had this break in the season, which has meant that there's just been an abundance of transfer rumours. Some pretty big names being linked away to the Premier League, which I'm interested to get your guys' view on, and other people being linked into the Championship. And we got some general stuff to talk about the season getting resumed as well. So quite a bit to go over in today's video. So if you did go to enjoy, please do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. So we'll start out with the Birmingham job. As we mentioned yesterday, they announced that manager Pep Clotet will be leaving at the end of the season. Currently the front runners for the managerial job, according to Sky Bet, are Chris Hughton, Lee Carsley, Craig Gardner. You then got Jukanovic, Lee Bowyer, Neil Warnock, Ita Karanka, Mark Robbins, Laudrup and McLeish. So Birmingham fans, would be interested to know from you guys, who would you like to see as your new manager? Chris Hughton, the #1 favourite at the moment. Lee Carsley, I'm not too sure about that one, is the second favourite at the moment. Obviously he's worked at Birmingham before as a #2, but I think that's one of the issues that they've ultimately ended up having with Pep, that they see him as more of like a #2 and a coach than as the manager to take them forward. So I'm not sure making that jump would be the right choice. Craig Gardner as well, you know, if they've looked to get rid of Pep, who's fairly inexperienced, would they then go for another inexperienced manager? I'm not so sure. I think Bowyer would be very good, but would he leave Charlton? I don't know, it's a bit of a turbulent situation that they're having at the moment. Mark Robbins is another one that intrigued me, as I see that as a possibility as well. So there are some interesting names in the running for it at the moment. Also, the EFL has had a meeting today, and they basically decided, and the EFL clubs voted for, in the situation that the season has to be curtailed, then the final placings will be determined on an unweighted points per game system. Obviously we all hope that that won't be the case. Promotion and relegation is going to be retained as well, and the playoffs are going to get played in all circumstances. And then what's going to happen later on today, by the time you guys will be watching this, the meeting's probably already happened. League 1 and League 2 are going to be deciding what's going to happen with them, and basically decide if they'll curtail their seasons or resume. I think this was the news to be expected, really. Obviously we all hope that the season will be able to be played out, and we won't have any spikes in cases or anything like that, because should everything go to plan, at least with the Championship, we'll get that closure on the season, and the season will get to be played out properly. But now, without any further ado, let's hop into some transfer rumours which have been going around lately. So the first big transfer story which has come out in the last week or so has been Joe Rodon's link to Manchester United. Swansea fans, let me know down below what you guys make of this one. A couple of weeks ago we were seeing Ben Rama linked to Chelsea, so a lot of Championship stars being linked to big Premier League clubs at the moment, and obviously Man United and Swansea have that relationship with the Dan James transfer. I've seen a lot of Man United fans like disregarding this one on Twitter and sort of shrugging off Rodon and not giving him credit for the player that he is, really. I think that Rodon, at 22 years old, all-compassing, probably is one of the most sort of complete centre-halves in the Championship. You know, regularly we'll talk about Ben White and his passing ability, Semi Ajayi and his physicality, Pontus Jansson and his leadership. At 22, I think that Rodon's got sort of all of those attributes rolled into one, and he's absolutely fantastic. I'll go back to the game that Swansea came to Deepdale for. Rodon was injured for quite a bit of the season. He missed a chunk of it through injury. That was his first game back, and he was absolutely fantastic. He was a brick wall, you know. When Swansea have had Van der Horn out injured as well for such a long period, Rodon's really stepped up this season. He's got leadership at the back. I think he's got maturity beyond his years. He's good on the ball. He's very good at reading different situations, and for the Championship, he is, you know, pushing on as one of the best in the league for me. And obviously at 22, when you have all those abilities, big clubs are always going to be interested. Now, I'm interested to see how Swansea go on in this summer, because, you know, since they've been in the Championship, we have seen a lot of sales from Swansea. Will they be able to fend off interest from someone like Man United? Because I really don't think that Swansea are that far away from properly pushing for promotion next season. I think the way they play the loan market, and with some of the youngsters that they've got coming up through the squad, I really don't think they're a million miles away if they keep this current group of players together. The question that I'd ask to Swansea fans is, if he was to leave, how much money would you be demanding for him? How much do you think he'd be worth in this sort of market? Because I mean, with everything going on at the moment, you know, would Swansea be a little bit more in need of the money? It's a really interesting one. Swansea fans, let me know down below what you make of the link. Peterborough striker Ivan Toney continues to be linked around the Championship as well. Middlesbrough were one of the clubs who were very interested, and now Rangers and Celtic have reportedly entered the race for the striker. And I do think in the Championship at the moment there is sort of a bit of a surplus of like prolific #9s. Like, obviously you've got your ones around the top 6, like your Mitrovic's, your Watkins who transitioned from winger into the striker, your Lewis Grobbins as well. But further down the league, I think nowadays there's a bit more of a reliance on goals from midfield, and sort of like the natural number 9s that we've had in previous years, there's not really as many sort of that are going to be hitting those like 20 goals a season or something like that. Ivan Toney is someone who could come into the Championship and break the mould with something like that though. He's been absolutely prolific in League One with 24 goals and 5 assists so far this season. We have seen players rip it up in League One before though and not do it in the Championship. You know, people like Will Grigg, Joe Garner couldn't really make the step up like he was as prolific in League One. But I do think there's something a little bit different about Ivan Toney. I think after this season will be going into his final year of his contract at Peterborough, although they're still adamant that they want 15 million for him. So I'd be interested to know from any Championship clubs, would you take that punt on Ivan Toney, and do you think he will be able to make that step up? Another striker who's going to be in very high demand in the summer is going to be Lyle Taylor, whose contract is running out. A couple of videos ago we mentioned the whole story about him refusing to play for the rest of the season. Got some really interesting perspectives I thought on that one as well. Some people siding with the club, some people siding with Lyle Taylor, but Burnley were a club in the Premier League who were linked, and then we've got a whole host of Championship clubs who are interested. West Brom, Brentford, Bristol City, Swansea and Sheffield Wednesday were very interested in January. I'd love to see my club Preston go after him. I think he'd really settle in and is the sort of player that we're lacking in our system at the moment. And there's also been interest from Scotland, with Rangers being linked in Turkey as well. And one transfer rumour that doesn't seem to be going away is Diedhiou being linked to Turkey and to Fenerbahce. In last week's roundup video we were talking about Puskas's links to Turkey. This time it's Bristol City striker. Now at the end of this season he's only going to have one more year left on his contract. There has been a bit of speculation around the club offering him a new contract, but him saying no. But like I say, that's all speculation at the moment. So Bristol City fans will be really interested to know what you guys make of this one. The deal being talked about at the moment is around about £4 million. When Bristol City signed him from France, that was for a fee of 5.3 million, I think a club record fee at the time. And throughout his time at Bristol City, I think he's been fairly consistent. You know, he's hit double figures in all 3 seasons he's been there. He works fairly well with everyone else around him. I think he's got a good sort of link up with Vyman when they play together. Obviously he misses sort of the odd sitter every now and again, but I think every striker in the Championship's a bit like that really. So for £4 million with 1 year left in his contract, Bristol City fans, let me know down below if you think that would be a decent deal or not. One of the local sports journalists who covers Bristol City tweeted this a few days ago. Continuing interest from Turkey and Bristol City's Diedhiou. We reported previously how Fenerbahce have had interest in the forward. Recent local reports say that talks have resumed with City over a £4 million deal. 1 year left in his contract, a summer sale does look likely. So Bristol City fans, let me know down below what you make of this one. One possibility for Bristol City should Diedhiou leave is for them to replace him with Benik Afobe. Obviously Afobe going on loan to Bristol City, having an absolute excellent start to the season. You know, things at Stoke never really materialised with Afobe, and I don't think that they'd be too keen to keep hold of him. I think they'll be happy to let him go in the summer. So if Bristol City could sort of deal out there, get Afobe on a permanent, that may not be a bad exchange. He scored 3 goals in the 5 games he played for Bristol City. He was absolutely brilliant at leading the line for them, really fitting well to their system under Lee Johnson. It was a shame about the injury, but should they get that replacement on the permanent, that may not be a bad deal for them. Sheffield Wednesday striker Stephen Fletcher is out of contract at the end of the season, and there has been some speculation about what's going to happen with that. I'm sure that Wednesday would be wanting to keep hold of him. I think he's been absolutely brilliant for them this season. 13 goals in 29 games for Wednesday this season. He's their top scorer, but should he not sign that contract extension, then he's obviously going to get that move to somewhere else. The clubs that have been interested and been linked so far that I've seen have been Stoke, Derby and West Brom. With Stoke, I think he improves on what they've got, but I'd imagine they'd be wanting to go down a bit more of a youthful route and look to rejuvenate their squad. Derby, I think, could be a possibility depending on what happens with Chris Martin. And speaking of Chris Martin at Derby, like I said, his contract is expiring at the end of the season. The club has been in negotiations to extend that contract, but if we are to believe the recent reports, he has rejected the first offer that Derby put on the table. I think, to be honest, with contract negotiations that does tend to be the case, but I am quite interested to see if he's going to extend with Derby, because should he not, that's a really good free transfer that quite a few Championship clubs, I'd imagine, would be interested in. He's got 9 goals and 6 assists this season. The first offer was apparently a 12-month extension, with the club then having the option to extend that for a further year, but the deal was quite heavy on incentives of how much he plays and stuff like that. I don't think anyone expected him to probably play as much and score as much as he has this season, but he's still proved to be a real valuable asset for them. Next up we get to the West Ham portion of the video, because they have been linked to literally everyone in the Championship recently. I want you to think of just a random Championship player in your head. If you got one, right, well, West Ham have probably been linked to them because they've been going crazy lately. The first of which has been Eberechi Eze. He's been linked around the Premier League quite a lot. There's going to be a lot of speculation around him as this transfer window does roll on. But what's interesting about this one is that obviously Jordan Hugill has been at QPR this season on loan from West Ham, so There's been talk about potentially a deal being in there where Eze goes to West Ham in sort of a swap plus cash deal, and then Jordan Hugill goes the other way. So QPR fans, I'd be interested to know from you guys, would you take that sort of exchange where you get Hugill and quite a bit of cash? The move to QPR for Hugill I think would make sense on the permanent if they could come to some agreement with the wages, because I know he is on quite a lot at West Ham. I don't think it will be sustainable for QPR to cover all of that. I think he would need to take quite a chunk off it. There's been a bit of talk around Matty Cash as well. He was heavily linked to West Ham in January. We'll see what happens with Forest over the course of the season. You know, should they go in and get promoted, they'll have a lot more bargaining and capabilities of keeping hold of their key players, but should they have another season in the Championship, that interest is probably still going to be there for Cash. And they've also been linked to a couple of Brentford forwards who I think are constantly going to be in the speculation, as they've done so well this season. Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins have both also been linked to West Ham. We spoke about Ben Rama last time. Ollie Watkins is always going to attract that attention, him being the second highest scorer in the Championship this season. English, there's a lot of room to grow. I think Brentford would want in excess of 20 million at least for both of them. Preston North End were linked to Celtic winger Johnny Hayes in the last few weeks as well, although Peter Ridsdale has dismissed these transfer rumours, basically saying that we were linked to him, you know, around January, but then we got the signing of Scott Sinclair done, and then since then we won't really be looking in that position. Hayes is someone whose contract is expiring at the end of the season, so will be available on a free. Can play a number of positions. He can either play on the wing or at fullback or in midfield at times. I think even at left back for the short term future, you know, he is 32 years old. We're not looking too bad at the moment. You know, we've got Andy Hughes, we've got Giroud who's done really well in that position this season, and now we've got Josh Hill coming back from his loan spell as well, so I can see why we've dismissed this one. Middlesbrough centre half Dale Fry has been attracting interest. We've seen West Brom, Newcastle and Everton all interested in the 22-year-old. I thought that last season he was absolutely excellent. This season he's been alright. I think his performances dropped off a little bit, like a few players in the Borough squad really, but at 22 he's captained the side. At his best I think he is very good, and I do think he has a massive ceiling to go on and grow. You know, Middlesbrough have quite the track record with producing good centre half. Another Middlesbrough centre half being linked around at the moment is Daniel Ayala. His contract is expiring at the end of the season. He was heavily linked to Leeds in January, but nothing quite materialised there. They may go back in for him in the summer though, depending on what happens for the rest of this season. Obviously Ayala has played in the Premier League before with Middlesbrough, so would add a bit of experience to that Leeds backline, which I think there would be one position where they would look to bolster, you know, depending on what happens with Ben White, if they're able to get him back next season or not. Middlesbrough though, I think they'd love to keep hold of Ayala. When he's played for them this season, I think he has made a real difference in that backline, being one of their most consistent performers when he is in the squad. I think he's got them out of quite a few tough situations this season. It would be a shame to see him leaving. But there you have it guys, there were some of the recent transfer rumours that I've seen going around the Championship in the last week or so. If you've seen any others that we didn't mention in today's video, then get them in the comments down below and get all your thoughts on what you're making of Championship football getting back sooner rather than later. We're not too far away now guys, and as we are approaching the season getting back underway, I will be uploading much more regularly in the following weeks, and yeah, like you guys already know, I will be having my weekly score predictions and roundup videos coming up as well. But like I say guys, that will wrap it up, so thanks very much for watching. If you wanted to enjoy, please do leave a like and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.